Happy Monday! Welcome back to Retake the Week. It's been another busy 7 days for us with a lot of Counter-Strike to keep up with, lots of content released, and of course, an event that's starting right as we're supposed to go live. So thank you, IEM Melbourne, for stealing our views, just like the last event, which started on a Monday, awkwardly, inconveniently in the morning. But it's all good. We'll be following as well in the background, I'm sure. I do have MIBR Navi on my off monitor, so if you ever see me whilst Quack is rambling, just off, looking off to my right, it's not because I'm looking at his face, it's because I'm looking at the Counter-Strike. I've seen his face a few times in my life, and it's not that fascinating anymore. I'm sure, though, when he next changes his haircut, it will be again. But all right. We do have to thank the same people we always thank every Monday. The members who make this show financially viable, who make at least to upload in terms of Spotify, all that stuff, because I really thought that'd be free for some daft reason, like using RSS to put a podcast up on various platforms. I thought that would be free. Delusional little small-minded me thought that would be free. But no, here we are. We've got obviously all this good stuff for members to enjoy. The latest, I've actually updated these now, so you'll see like what the demos, prospect demo lives look like, with a variety of different players being featured on most live streams. And yeah, of course, the interview with Semler, the biggest interview we've done. Hopefully, some people still want to go watch that who haven't had the chance yet. But Quack, you've had a busy weekend. Has it been a busy week of work as well? Anything to promo?
No, nothing special. I've done the regular, I'd like to say 9 to 5. It's not 9 to 5. It's actually very odd hours. I've already worked a couple of hours today, even. But it's just the regular stuff, which you also should read. You should also click on things, click on articles, click on all the articles. Otherwise, you can't keep making them. So actually, let me just use this promo. So it's if you see somebody in a fucking Reddit thread and they go, so for those people too lazy to click on the article, here's the TLDR. Ban them if you can. Give them hate speech if you can, like in the replies, because those people are ridiculous and they don't understand how anything in the real world works. Yeah, get rid of them. All right. Anyway, yeah. That's what I'm going to use my promo for. And yeah, go sponsor this show.
Yeah, become a member. Yeah,
we still want sponsors. Yeah, you can be a member, but we also want sponsors.
Of course. Sponsor.
I'm just gonna say some brands: Hyundai, Bosch. Let's go for Apple Music. If you want to, any of these want to sponsor us, you can DM me.
Yeah, DM's open. Any multi-billion-dollar corporations who want to sponsor.
Yeah. Astralis, you can sponsor us, and we'll remove you from the thumbnail and title.
That's actually, it wouldn't be the first time I'd turn down Astralis money, actually. So no.
They can't afford us anyway.
That's not happening. Yeah, they can't afford us. At the rate they're hemorrhaging money and losing games, they probably can't. Given the salary they're probably giving to these players, they can't afford it. So yeah, let's get right into it. Obviously, the first big thing to talk about is the MRQ results. It's been an interesting series of changes to the way we qualify for majors, handle that kind of thing. And this MRQ is exciting in some ways, because it is the MRQ, it's teams, it's basically, for some of them, it dictates their financial future entirely. But I want to just kick this off with the fact that this is online. Kind of pissed me off.
Yep.
It pissed off a lot of people as well, because I saw a lot of, compilations, videos of people talking about like the things that we missed by having this online. The reactions, the excitement, teams not being in boot camps necessarily, or being in the same place. And it kind of annoyed me too. When it's made such a big deal of, when it's so much consequence to this sort of event, as much as I get a logistical and financial nightmare to get all that sorted, it does have a certain element of prestige still, even if it is qualifying for the stage one, which is more like major qualifier than major itself. It's still a big deal for teams. It still matters to them. a whole lot. And for a lot of the scene who follow smaller teams, who follow regional CS as well, in terms of non-top 10 teams, it has a lot of blowback, a lot of consequences. So it is kind of, yeah, as I put it in the lower third, it kills the magic a bit of what's supposed to be a pretty momentous and I think really exciting moment for a lot of rosters.
Yeah, this was predictable, I'd say. Because we said as much. Like we said that we were going to lose these pretty exciting moments, and I'm thinking about like Passion UA and the Shanghai RMR, like how these moments sort of disappear for us viewers, and teams could have done this to a degree. They could have done it quite a bit. I think there's a couple of teams who did. I saw Heroic, for example, posted their qualifying moment because they had all the players on boot camp.
Yeah.
And that was cool, but it's also like, we didn't get. It's not the same vibe as we had before. And I kind of miss that. Like, it should be on LAN. It just kind of should be. And I don't think there's any way Valve don't make the fall major qualifiers on LAN after how much it's been talked about. And considering they're usually kind of reactive to this, I think like a second component to this as well is an issue of visa issues. Because one of the benefits of having the miners and the Shanghai RMR in particular was because they were hosted in the same country as the major. So if you had visa issues, you had visa issues for the qualifier, not for the major itself. And there's a decent risk of visa issues for this major. Just as a general note, especially particularly for like I'm particularly looking at like some of the Chinese teams and some of the Eastern European teams. They might have some trouble getting a visa in it's going to be about 40 days. So there's major qualifiers should be on LAN. It just kind of should be. So
yeah, we've got a real problem coming if we end up with. Like, obviously, we have a lot of teams towards the top of the scene who are reliant or made up entirely of Eastern European players. And by Eastern, obviously, we mean the Russian group of Eastern European, Russian, Belarusian. They're the ones who are expected to have problems. They're the ones who I've heard.
I'd say Bait have a decent chance of having issues as well, just
really?
because of more of a political statement than anything else. But I think with the current administration and what I've heard, I think Ukrainians have a hard time.
Yeah, because it's been I don't think they're gonna have a problem, but it's just like it's weird to me to think. I don't know. I don't think we've had many players from Kazakhstan have issues.
No, I think that might be fine.
That's always weird.
We've had the odd one, I think.
That's always weird to me a bit because they're very intrinsically tied together in terms of scenes, but maybe politically less tied than they used to be.
I reckon Chinggis Warriors might have an issue just because it's 5 players who I don't think, like maybe Coolest, but I don't think literally anyone else on that team has ever traveled into the US for Counter-Strike. So
right. Yeah, but they probably has traveled into China. So that's always a bit of a red flag. A bit like the opposite way around. If you've ever been to like Hong Kong, you might have a few extra issues with the Chinese visa.
That's likely the issue why Fuzi and Susp had maybe a couple of months delay like in between each other, where Susp got his visa approved. Even that took like a long time. But then Fuzi got even more time because he lived in China for a while when he was there with Rare Atom. So
yeah,
it's a whole thing.
It's a whole mess, and we hope it's going to be very very simple. You know, nothing to write home about. We hope that everyone just shows up. This was all an overblown issue. It's just something we talked about, not something that actually became a problem. You know, that happens every now and then. We just get a bit overdramatic. But let's talk about the actual results. Obviously, there were some notable failures, and we're going to start with, I think, what's going to make you the most happy as far as lower thirds, and that is Sweden outperformed Denmark at the major. Now, caveat, obviously, it's not so much Sweden massively overperforming the mark, and rather Denmark underperforming. But hey, a dub's a dub. Rip Bozo. Sweden with 11 or 12 players, I think it is, at the major, to Denmark's 10 or 11. I think it's literally a difference of 1. But it's still...
last major, it was a difference of 1. Denmark now has about 6, I think.
Oh, is it? Far?
It's basically just Kerrigan, and then Magisk and Tessus, obviously. And then maybe the odd one. And then, a couple of qualified. Like, there's 3 Danes on OG. And I think that's literally it.
Damn, that's way less than I thought. I don't know why I was thinking they were close. But all right, yeah.
It's 6 or 7. So, yeah, bro would be number 7.
Denmark has really fallen off, essentially. And, well, I'm not sure you're too bothered.
This is well known. This is an established fact. Yeah. No, I was really happy. I went out drinking on the day Metasport qualified, and I was so happy. The volume button on my phone has now fallen off.
What were you doing? That's my question.
I don't know. I was actually at a pub quiz. I don't know if it had anything to do with Metasport, but I played it off as such. No, I've ordered a new phone. So yeah, I was really happy, and I thought they did it really well, because I didn't think, like, I tried to flip it around a little bit, like the narrative around, and I was like, did Metasport actually, did they fluke this? Like, because it would have felt kind of shitty if they fluked it. And I can't really find a way to see that they did. I don't think, I mean, it's a fluke in the sense that they haven't played this well in a while. They got quite far in some other qualifiers.
Aside from that, yeah.
No, but I mean, against similar opposition, they got quite far in, say, like the Astana close qualifier. That's a lot of the same opposition, where they had to beat teams like Nemiga and this sort of level of team, and Bet Boom, which they did quite handily. So, in that sense, I don't think it was a gross overperformance in that sense. It was a very even qualifier. I beforehand, I could genuinely see pretty much anybody make it through. And even the ones I thought had low odds actually kind of surprised me, like BC Game. I mean, they still go out 1-3, but like they still have that Fnatic win. They played it pretty close against Metasport. Like, I thought they looked a lot better than they maybe should have. So I can't really find a way to make this like a bullshit qualification. They actually really played a really good game, because the bait win is huge. And even taking that OG loss, that's when I started thinking like, oh shit, they're gonna go 2-3 now. They're gonna lose all the best of 3s, and then they take the Astralis win, and that's huge. It's a big win. So yeah, I'm happy that they're through, and I'm happy I was right about that as well, because I predicted them to go through.
I think the question now becomes, because obviously it's on the thumbnail, it's a big sort of talking point. Astralis, where are we at here?
Yep.
Are we talking? Look, there's always a couple places you can go when you talk about a team disappointing, underperforming. And I think the question for Astralis right now is, because they've had a lot of changes, they've got a lot of controversial moves on their record, you know what I mean? Is this a talent issue, or is this a leadership issue? Is the problem at the Cadian and on the coach, or are we talking Yabi's just not good enough? The Vice doesn't have it in him to just go pub stomp in lower tier play. I mean, Stown, I think overall has a decent level of play at the qualifier overall, but he's been a disappointment at a variety of events. I think the only player who's really not under scrutiny over the last sort of 3-4 months for Astralis, or maybe even more, maybe 6, is Stare. No one's got anything bad to say about Stare, but Stown, Yabi, both have their off moments. And this specific qualifier, it actually turns out Device does play very well in terms of rating, but just not enough to get them over the edge. So what is our real problem here, if we're looking at Astralis trying to diagnose them?
I'm gonna say, okay, so I talked about this with on Twitter in a pretty long thread with Animo, I think it was Sam Animo from TLDR, and we had basically we were comparing them to other national teams, because his take was basically they have to go international because they need more talent. But then I was like, this isn't a talent issue, because you have Stare, who you say is not under scrutiny. He's played fine, and the other 4 players are very talented. Like 2 or 3 years ago, 3 of them were top 1 in the world, and the other one is one of the best operators of all time. So talent-wise, I don't think it's an issue. But then I started looking at some of the other national teams, like national European teams we have, and even non-European. But we have teams like Aurora, we have teams like Mongoose, we have teams like 3D Max, and sort of the running thread for all of them is that they manage to be more than the sum of their parts, I think. Especially 3D Max, and at this point, because we're talking about Astralis, what are they going to do? When I'm talking about Aurora and Mongoose and 3D Max, I'm sort of talking about what were they like when they formed the lineup and how much have they managed to extract out of it. And in all three of them, they've managed to extract quite a bit more than the players were worth at the time. Like 3D Max is the big example because they have like this core of team, which it's extracted quite a lot of results out of players who are either inexperienced at the top level with mediocre tier 2 careers, or previously in tier 1 but definitely past their prime. Like Body and Lucky, they stepped into tier 1 in 2019, and they kind of fell out of it, and now they're back. Exorcise, Gravity, I've never in my life did I think that they, like, I don't think they ever showed anything in tier 2 before this team, which made me think this is a future tier 1 talent. Maybe Gravity, if you like look at a prospects level.
If you watch demos, yeah, Gravity had something, but it's not like he's not a surefire gonna hit. Like there's no Kyosuke in France, you know. There's no exactly. There's none of that guy. Not since that one guy. Since our incarnate lord came rising through the scene in half a week, have we seen a talent of that level in France? So no, there was no surefire hit in that sense. Yeah,
and then Exorcise and Joko was here as well. I count him towards that. It's not players which I find overly inspiring, but they still manage to play at a near or even at a top 10 level in the world, and they've done it fairly consistently now for a couple of months, maybe even over a year. So with that as an inspiration, it's similar kinds of players that Astralis have always signed. Like the way they would pick up players like Cadian, they'd pick up players like Config, they picked up players, or even just retained them for a long time. Like they picked up Borup out of kind of nowhere. They had Glaive, but then also like the uninspiring tier 2 players. We're talking like Mister, we're talking Buzz, we're talking Altex. Like fine, but they're not slam dunk signings. So it's just they don't build. It's a fundamentally bad roster, is sort of what I'm saying. Where the other teams which find success with national teams, like Aurora, Mongoose, 3D Max, they build fundamentally good teams at their core, and then they extract more out of it.
I think Aurora's a bit of an exception to that rule because they were, as Eternal Fire, constantly changing team players, making nonsensical moves. They very much did it all by flying off the seat of their pants, and just guessing. And I think the big difference here is Astralis started at the top. A lot of the teams we're talking about here came from the bottom and had periods of changing players and constantly trying out different things and figuring it out and being patient. Astralis have treated themselves, and we've treated them, like one of the best teams in the world, or maybe not even one of, at times, the best team in the world, or team that should be with that kind of ambition. When they've had players like Blame F, they've had players like Config, they've made signings to try and remain at the top, and it's led to them making a lot of compromised decisions and not followed a specific team vision. If you are Mongols, you have built with Mara and Blitz. Techno is perhaps the only other player who's been there for an extended period of time, like going all the way back to their really early days. They've constantly built towards a vision and built with a specific target in mind in terms of how the team's going to be assembled. The Astralis haven't had that time. 3D Max haven't been I don't think, as direct and specific. They've basically just taken the best thing they can get in France every time. Like with the occasional exception. Like, maybe you could have had Netu. Maybe you could have, at one point, maybe Masuto had that sort of cred when he was fragging with 9, where you're like, there's probably a better French player available. But essentially, it was the best French players available. Put it in a team. Give Maka the reins. We believe. Let's try and make something work. And it took a while, iteration after iteration. And they had times where they were good for their level, times where they were bad for their level. They climbed lostly. Again, none of this has been afforded to Astralis. So in terms of comparisons directly to the pure national teams we have now, they don't get the same, I think, leeway that we give a lot of national teams. Or not directly, but in terms of historically over time they've been able to build up, because they just weren't considered anything special. They were just, one of the cute, fun national teams. So we do, I think, with Astralis, I do believe you're correct in that it's not a talent problem. I don't see Stown, Yabby, Stare, Device as a quartet of players that miss the major. Especially when we have this many teams allowed to attend the major. You know what I mean? Like, this is not for untalented players. This is Stown who, despite all his flaws, despite probably still having choking issues, is a very solid, like, sort of mixed role, mixed responsibility, but cerebral kind of star rifler. Device, as much as we critique him, and as much as he could have done so much more with his career in terms of the NIP days, the Astralis days when the Astralis were a mess, Bro can still go out and find his numbers. Like I talked about, maybe he can't steamroll. Yeah, he didn't steamroll Metasport. Like he should have.
Yeah.
Realistically, there's no AWPer on the other side who's going to pick him off. Lumen ain't shit.
No.
Like he had every opportunity to just steamroll that series. He didn't. But aside from that, he was outstanding in the qualifier. Yabby is the most up and down kind of player. In terms of, he takes the highest, like sort of, he puts himself in a lot of very high leverage scenarios where he wins or loses rounds with the sort of plays he tries to make, the lurks, the fights. But all in all, he still does it at a fairly high rate and still wins it quite often. So I don't think it's a problem of roles, a problem of stars. It's a problem of overall leadership. And I think historically it's been a problem of patience with the way they've tried to make signings and rush things and not given themselves proper time or subscribed to someone's vision. And I think the Cadian move still reeks of that, because it's just, get me a proper IGL in there who's going to be on meta, or at least more disciplined and more strict with certain players. Or hell, get an IGL in like a Hooksy and let him cut Yabby for every once, for example. Give him more impetus. I think that could be an idea. Because it does feel more like a leadership issue and not really a talent problem. Oh my god, are they talented? They have talent for days.
It's a management failure. Device is the longest standing member of this team at this point. He's been here for 2.5 years in this stint. And they've had 4 in-game leaders in that time, including himself. And yeah, he's like him and Cadian, like they had Blame F for a while, and it's such drastic changes as well, because he joined when Glaive was still there, and then Blame F took over the leadership when Glaive left for I think that was when Borup and Stare came in, and Glaive left with Buzz, I think. No, Altex and Glaive left for Stare and Yabby. And then Blame F left, and they gave it to Device, which also reeked of, like, I'm not going to say personal issues, but like conflict within the team. That whole move, like, just reeked, because there was that interview with like Device. He's not having fun anymore playing or whatever. Like, it very much seemed like Device wanted to play some kind of CS, so he tried it for a while, and then Cadian comes in, and again, like, management is super weird here, because we know that they didn't even tell the roster that Cadian was joining. And I don't even know if Device was fine with giving up IGL. Like, did they just tell him that he's not going to be IGL anymore? Or was that like... I don't know. I don't know. The whole roster also doesn't really make sense. Like, I think Device Cadian is fundamentally like 2 different visions of CS. 2 different ways of playing that I think that's not really going to work out. And it's kind of exemplified by the fact that I saw a video where years ago, I think it was in the Rio Major, the Heroic roster were reading out like hate comments from HLTV. And Cadian was like reading out a comment which jokingly, not even jokingly, but he was jokingly reading it out, suggesting that Heroic should sign Device and put Cadian on Rifle IGL. And he was like, we should never do that. That's a really bad suggestion. And that's exactly how Astralis are playing at the moment. So,
he doesn't make much sense on a rifle, does he? Like,
no,
doesn't play well.
At a point 86, at a point 86, which is where he's at right now.
I mean, it's snaps that's clearly enough to win sometimes, but
there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't have Hooksy in here.
No, as always. And this is honestly, there are a lot of comparisons, similarities between their failures, between the way they've gone through all these like weird, massive, violent changes of roster and idea and vision that actually G2 went through. You know, when G2 were like making changes where it's like, oh, we're changing IGL, but also changing another player, and we're changing this, but also changing that, and now we're going to make this change, even though it's 6 months too late. And like, there's not a problem with the talent. It's just not the case. That's the unfortunate reality. I think you could argue, just in terms of the way we think of like Yabi as a player, you can argue there's a case to make for cutting him, in terms of he's not performed up to the level you'd hoped. But that's why I say it's because it's the replacement you then make, I think, has to be considered with the IGL move you potentially make. If you bring in a Hooksy, as you've said, no reason not to. I think you let him either he decides he can work with Yabi and make it happen, because he's worked with him in the past. He put him on the map.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
Either he chooses to work with him, or he decides Stair gets to now play some of those spots, gets to play some of those roles, and I bring in a soldier that does the work I want him to do. Whoever that is, you've got infinite choices in the Danish scene for a rifler who's not going to be dreadful. Like, we saw that with the Towson move for Gamer Legion. Like, he's not going to be dreadful. The fact that he's also like a locker room guy, like in terms of leadership, and he's got a bunch of other qualities and doesn't shoot that badly, is nice bonuses. But realistically, to me, to everyone else, he's just another Danish guy who's not terrible and doesn't make dumb decisions. So I think you have to kind of let Hooksy make that decision if you do bring him in, or if you make another decision at IGL, assuming it's not a star player who just decided to do it arbitrarily. I think that's the way you have to go forward.
Yeah, because they have the ability to pick whoever is next best. They always do.
Yeah, annoyingly, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like there's you can't even look at the OG players now though, because otherwise that would have been where you would look. But now you can't do that. They are going to play the major. If you wanted a Buzz or if you wanted a Krisen in there, or if you want to try Buzz again or whatever,
yeah. Give me
you can do that.
Holy crap! Give me Krisen on this team. He is
not going to happen.
So awesome. I know it's not going to happen, but oh my god, is he awesome? And is that a missed opportunity?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a big sort of finding himself moment when he leaves Mauser XT, and now we're kind of getting on a tangent, but we're still kind of on the Sweden-Denmark point, so it's all good. When he leaves the Mauser XT project, goes to OG, I was like, all right, OG are rebuilding. Finally, they're properly doing it. They're getting a young IGL. They're going to let him build himself into whatever sort of shape he wants to be in. Surround him with a bit of talent. We'll see what comes of it. We'll see how good he really is. He's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, the way he calls, but also the way he plays. Sure, it does have a little bit of that, you know, calling for myself, calling around myself energy. But I don't care if it works. I don't care if he hits the shots. He gets to do that. And he's doing it super well. It helps, I think, that Nikodos, like a good AWPer, adds a bit of, like, CT sort of idea to the mix. Like, adds another voice, basically, to the combination. And also helps that Nikodos is fucking sick on a rifle, because if you actually look at his stats for this event, he's rifling so much. He's got a sniper kills per round of 0.2 on the CT side, 0.08 on the T side. Bro, it's basically a hybrid at this point. Like, he's just rifling. But the way they play, it actually works a lot. It works really well. It's not too dissimilar from actually how Maus are playing, in my eyes, conceptually rather than literally. They don't have a Spinx. They don't have a Torji. But they got like similar ways they play off the back of the pack, and then with the great mid-round, strong on nuke. Like, they have some similarities. But no, I'm loving what Krisen's doing with OG right now. Their demos are really fun to watch. And hey,
yeah,
if this is how Nikodos is going to make his career comeback, kind of AWPing, kind of rifling, out being the veteran voice at 24 on OG's essentially academy project, fuck it. Make it happen, King. That's awesome.
If that's what he does, that's what everybody was saying 2 years ago when he was, or a year ago even.
Yeah, we all said it. He's better on a rifle.
Yeah, we all said it. If you would only just rifle a bit more, like if then, you know, you could have had a career still, and now he's making a new career with by doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
18.3% AWP kills at this MRQ. Outperformed by the M4 and the AK. Like, he's just been... I mean, they didn't even end up playing 5 maps, but still.
It's so... Yeah. I mean, yeah. It still works. But yeah, just to finish up on Metasport, because I think we could definitely talk a bit more about them.
I mean, it's an interesting result for them, because they go through, and you're right, they've had deep runs, but they go through off the back of Isaac and Hampus, like, carrying the fragging.
Yeah.
Adam B and Plopsky nowhere to be found in terms of the ratings. You're like, this is what makes it feel fluky, like, as a run. I don't think they're underserving overall in terms of their level. I think you're not too far off the mark when you say almost anyone could have gone through this. Like, it's really evenly matched.
Yeah.
But them going through in this style is more the question, because Isaac is going to be one of your best players. I mean, Hampus, I get it. You know, he always has this element of, like, trying to trying to rely on his feel of the game to go make something happen. But
all a bit around himself, yeah. He's always
Isaac? That's a strange one.
It's a bit of an overperformance. I think Adam B maybe mainly was the one who wasn't really there, but then also, like, I think Loom lifted himself in quite a couple of the maps where, like, in quite a few of the maps where he maybe wouldn't have had that same form if it was any other game. And he's not up there on the average. He's 1.0 blank,
flat,
but
1.0, yeah.
Yeah, but like the way he played in the BC game where they actually come back quite heavily from a 4-1 deficit to win 13-8. He was really good there. Isak was also really good. Like, there's Isak definitely played an amazing MRQ, which is, I don't know if I could call it sustainable. He did. I feel like he did it a lot on T side, where it's a lot more sustainable, because he did. I feel like a lot of the impactful plays were like lurk plays, where he'd sort of crack open around by finding something, and that's a role where he can actually do that semi-consistently. He's actually in the position to do that.
Yeah, in the position to do it. The problem is actually doing it has been historically not his thing. Like, he hasn't really showed up a whole lot.
Yeah, but I think he fits. I think he fits better here. I think he likes it better here. So I'm gonna need to see for them to go anything better than 1-3. I'm gonna need to see a bit more out of Adam B.
Yeah.
In the major itself, I'm gonna need to see a bit more out of Plopsky, probably a bit more out of Loom as well, unless he just goes the Nikos route and starts to rifle a bit more, because he's better at it. Like I said, like, so then I want to see a bit more there, but it's I don't know. I could have definitely, even if they did lose that Astralis game, I definitely could have seen them go through the 6th place decider thing as well. So it's not like I feel like they shouldn't be here, and that feels really good to say, because it's almost every other time it has felt a little bit fluky every time something like this happened, and especially with how they played specifically in high pressure games recently. That's sort of where they failed. Like, they've in that banger of an NIP game for the Astana qualification, they rolled the qualifier up until that point, but then as soon as it's like an inch from qualification, they lose. They had the grand final in Galaxy Battle the day before that game, where they also lost. Did really well up until that point. Obviously, in the end, it didn't matter. I don't know if they knew this when they played, but in the Yalla Compass thing, again, they had a best of 1 against 9 Pandas. If they win it, they're through. Otherwise, they're out, and they lose it in triple overtime. Like, these sort of high pressure games is what I wouldn't have thought it was strange if Metasport went out on this in this MRQ because of the high pressure with the way they've played recently, but they handled it pretty well.
Yeah, quality win for them in the end to get out. On the other side, another group of young players, my prospects, but most importantly, the one at the helm, who's had some calls, free the MPL, but MPL frees himself. No need to free this MPL. He's actually gone and led and fragged his team through, not exclusively. He had a great, showing overall, but a strong performance from a lot of players on this team. Head trick, not to be discounted. who will be appearing at a major before an IP can actually make it back, which I love to see. I mean, come on, this guy's. We talked about it a lot in the past when he was starting out on bait about how Trick. This was the perfect situation for him as well, to go down to this level, find his form, find his place, and come back up. And he's really delivered on that. This event specifically, I think only the final best of 3. I think a bit soft from him. Not that great against Astralis, but huge against ENCE. That was a big game to win. Huge against Parry Vision. That's a tough one. But no, MPL as the leader, star rifler basically for this roster, has so much weight on his shoulders. And yeah, huge to make it through for this young group. I think for me this was especially fun because I saw everything I'd said you should see from a strong bait roster, essentially through my MPL and Kenzizor vids, like what makes them effective, how they win. I saw Kenzizor being an absolute fucking nuisance to try and play against. Trying to kill that man is so hard. Like he's just spamming the fuck out of every button on the movement side. Like he's just doing everything. Can't hit the guy. And then to have him also find a lot of key multi-kills in big gun rounds, I think was perfect. MPL delivering, calling around himself, showing off that sort of next level polish he has to his game. All that stuff, super positive. So yeah, MPL Frees Himself, not without assistance, but it's still a huge performance for them. And well, they're the ones who eliminated Astralis, so they're everyone's heroes right now.
Yep. There was a really good casting moment as well from Dweg and Jay when Alex finished the game with a clutch, which is
that huge 1v3 was
maybe the closest thing we had to like one of those RMR moments, but I kind of wish we had it on LAN.
Of course.
I think they won 5 straight best of 3s to make it through because they go 0-2 down after day 1.
Yeah.
And they play an extremely close game against Parry Vision for the last place elimination. They take out BC game in a relatively short order. They play 9 pandas, and again they handle them. 9 pandas not overly
another fairly
scary
comfortable
here.
win for them.
Yeah, ENCE not a comfortable match, but they take it. It's very 50-50. They were 38 and 34 in the world. It's super close.
Mm-hmm.
And then Astralis, which is an upset, and I think they played it in exactly the way that they had to play that game, and they managed to pull it through. So yeah, I mean, any team winning 5 straight best of 3s is honestly quite rare. Like you mostly get that out of something like Vitality having whatever run they're on right now with how many they've won in the row. You mostly get it out of that sort of level of team. Otherwise, you usually have the odd loss. But you win 5 straight best of 3s. You do it in the same event, and that event is also for major qualification, and any one of those games could have meant a loss. That's a pretty big mental win, I'd say, for Bit.
Yeah. I mean, historically, they've had a problem, closing out qualifiers, closing out events. They've been that team that's just like there, but never quite good enough. We've had these conversations about Bait before, about the mental side of the game, and bloody hell, yeah. I mean, we'll get into the fact that they had to play 2 BO1s to open off the event. I have a take on that later. Not a very controversial one, I assume, because BO1s are poison, but yeah, to win 5 BO3s like that, absolutely insane. Really excites me for what's to come from these guys. The fact that they actually got over that sort of mental block of they actually won a qualifier. They actually made it out and got to an event. They're finally going to be playing another LAN. Now, if they can continue this form at the stage 1 itself, we'll see. I hope so. I've got a couple guys I really believe in on this team, really rooting for. But it's not going to get any easier from here on in. So that sort of mental toughness is going to need to be replicated.
Yep. I'm going to say there's an interesting thing for this major, which the coaches we have coming in. Because I think there's an interesting bunch of coaches here who have managed to qualify for this major so far. First of all, there's a bunch of players who I pointed out on Twitter, which are ex-players who were only ever in Tier 2 and who are now transitioning into coaching. I'm talking about people like Joking, Railway, Box, JNT out of MIBR as well. Obviously, they got invited, and I think he didn't really make his space as much. But yeah. Zote on Bestia as well. But then there's also Tacitus. Tacitus as Fluxo. He was never really a player, but Tacitus and Madden never really had a playing career whatsoever. Not particularly extensive. But especially Madden, he's 24 years old. He's never had a playing career. He just kind of came in to bait as the coach. Just kind of like, hey guys, I can do this. Like 3 years ago. And now he's at a major. And it's pretty cool to like think what is he bringing to the table and how is he doing that like as without
he starts as an analyst for Bait originally.
Yeah,
that's how he probably like I don't know, probably played at a low level. Let's be real.
I mean, look, he's obviously played the game, but he's never
yeah. I mean, ESCA Open, ESCA Intermediate, maybe even Main. You can be a player on teams.
He has never had a Liquipedia recorded event in any.
Yes, that's obviously true. But I'm saying is these sorts of level of play are typically not recorded.
Main would have been recorded. Maybe if he was any good, also intermediate. But yeah, he might have played intermediate and open.
So look, yeah, from analyst to coach, he's done a bang up job. But I think it is interesting to talk about this team, talk about their lack of experience, like how young they are.
Yeah,
all the way through to the coach role. It's pretty crazy because Madden is 24. You said it. That's not old at all. He's the oldest, I think, by default, because the oldest player is like 23. Yeah. That's it. 23-year-old Alex 666. That's it. So they're a very immature team, and that's going to be a concern going forward, especially going to big events, getting all that sort of pressure. But it's still super exciting to watch and follow. And I think they can make a bit of a dream run, a bit of a fairy tale run at stage 1. They've got that potential in their players. Not necessarily go that deep, but take a couple big scalps, All right.
For sure. I also beta stickers are going to go hard.
They are going to go hard. Beta stickers, come on. Perfect. But all right. Speaking of teams who didn't make it through, this was a big one for me. Glaive just can't wake the ENCE. One of my favorite puns I've ever written. He got them quite far. He got them in the meeting, he got them talking, but not enough. Not enough. And it feels a bit weird looking at ENCE's run here, because I was watching games, I'm seeing SDY dominating Fnatic. I'm thinking, damn, this could be it. Like, this is the level they've got. I mean, we're still getting a decent Netu. Ex-Casper Sky is playing all right. Pody, still a bit disappointing, but hey. They've got enough firepower here to make it out. They're playing well enough. They've got like enough maps under their belt to really make this happen. Just to go out to Bait is a damn shame. And for me, it's a bit of a weird one, because I'm like, overall, what does Glaive think of all this? Like, where does he assess himself after this? Does he think... Essentially, I'm asking you, is there a better place for Glaive to be than this ENCE roster right now? As in, is he worthy of it?
I don't think it is, because I remember that we talked about his joining this team as like a... I wouldn't say... I think maybe at the time we did. Today I wouldn't say final test, but maybe like a test to see if he can really do it. Because he'd been out of the... out of the big leagues for quite a while. Yeah. And this was sort of his opportunity to take... At first, it was an opportunity to take a Polish team and make them good, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, that was obviously never going to be his final roster, was it?
Yeah. With SDY and Pody, and then afterwards as well, Natu and XS Sky, he basically... All 4 of these players were selected while he was the in-game leader. And I'm assuming he had some input. Even on KJ, the coach, as well, came in afterwards. Under the assumption he had some input. Which, with ENCE, I'm pretty sure that you would have. They're relatively competent to manage. This was his opportunity to take 3 relatively inexperienced players and a player who is probably indisputably in his prime, especially when he joined. Like in his individual prime, in a very flexible player as well as SDY. There's a lot of there's every reason to say that this team was extremely malleable, and this was his opportunity to turn it into a good team. And it's so hard to say if they have been. I'd say across the time of this team, which is now, it's coming up on a year, sooner rather than later. I'd say they've done okay for themselves. They kind of stopped the free fall. They've been in the odd event, and they've played the CCTs. They make pretty deep runs, top 4 here and there. Not making the major is a big failure. It's just like I'd say ENCE, and with some of these players definitely should be at the major, mostly STY, but yeah, it's there's nowhere better I would put Glaive at the moment.
Okay.
I couldn't see him. I mean, maybe it's a leading question. You have somebody in mind, but if you want to be technical, BC Game is a better spot, and I'd be fine with him going there. Like they're slightly better ranked. No, I don't think Glaive is unless like Big go international or something. Otherwise, I don't think there's justification for Glaive to upgrade. I'd honestly say that he's kind of the one guy on this ENCE team who is the most under scrutiny, maybe next to Pody. Because again, it's like, what is the reason that you haven't lead this team into a masterpiece? Because the players are pretty good, and the players are all doing a pretty fine job. There's nobody here dropping a 0.9 stinker. So what gives?
I think what gives is you can't win anything with kids. Look, he's essentially running a borderline academy project. And I think, honestly, it's a pretty good one. I think it's a pretty good one. Look, they're one win from making the major. They're one win from winning Yalla Compass. Like, he's getting quite good results out of this team. It's not like he's been an abject failure. I do think it should be considered a failing to not have actually qualified here. They should have been passing that test and going through, given not necessarily that these players are all super amazing, just given that you got this sort of performance from SDY, because as much as he painted it as SDY is in his prime is not Nico. Like, his prime is, this guy's a really reliable 4th piece on a team, like 3rd, 4th piece, who can step up. On Monty, was sometimes asked to do more and could, but it wasn't really a long-term plan for them. On this roster, the plan isn't SDY win. Like, that's not what they're supposed to be doing. Like, their focus is X-Casper Sky as an entry, Pody as an AWPer, and I think we do have some fair critiques to levy at a player like Pody. I think Pody has been a bit soft. It's been a bit unimpressive overall. I think X-Casper Sky is still very inexperienced. Doesn't always, make the soundest decisions. I like Netu. I like SDY. I don't think this is enough to say they are like heavy favorites to make it out of even this level of play, even though they should. You know what I mean? It's less of a guarantee than you'd want it to be, given that you're like Glaive's at the helm. As far as teams he can go into, I was just leading that as a question just out of curiosity. Like, I don't necessarily think there is. I'm just thinking, is his credit in the scene bigger than this one? And I think I do have him fairly high rated. Like, I'm a big fan of what he's managed to achieve, considering the roster. I'm just not sure there's a project out there that's of a multi-major winning standard. There's no one of that level who should want him, and that's just a bit of a disappointing reality, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can levy a lot of Pody as well. He's been disappointing, but I'll also say that he's not. And with SDY, I think fourth man is a bit underselling him a bit, considering he was pretty consistently the second guy for Monty, and he did that very successfully with in particular in Jönköping. So I do think ENCE should be asking more out of SDY. He's a third, second guy. And I don't know. It's hard to place these, because maybe maybe if you give this exact 5 another season, you give him until New Year's. Maybe that's where you start to see the improvement, because you've given them time, you've given them resources, and they have done solid. Like I think ENCE are above the mark for where I would say they're doing poorly, especially with the sort of downturn they had before this with the Polish roster. They've slowed that descent, and that's difficult enough. And they've also taken like some pretty deep runs, and they've got some decent development out of the players. But I don't know if you can get much more out of them, because you've had almost a year with them. So I think maybe the problem is Glaive. It's just sort of what I'm feeling. To me it looks more like Glaive maybe trying and failing more than it looks like anyone else trying and failing. So I don't know, maybe that's just my vibe. So that's why I can't see him move up.
I think that's
overall, I'd say his time on ENCE has not been a positive for him career-wise. It's obviously hard to reach the highs of winning 4 majors, but
yeah, that's a big one. Like that's a fantastic ceiling. Like you can't really.
He is second stint at Astralis. He was bad. The team was bad. It was horrible. It was starting to look like MSL the last time he showed his face. He's come into ENCE, and he's done fine, but he hasn't had the rebound where I feel like, yeah, you saved your career, and now you can move on to a better team again. It's more like, no, I need to see you make this team into a tier 1 team. That's sort of...
Give him a tier 1 caliber rifler in ex-Kaspersky's place. I don't think we have to have this conversation again. I think he has been a bit of a letdown overall, like alongside. But that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this is an academy team. I don't think ex-Kaspersky should be a tier 1 rifler now. You know, he was an NIP academy guy, and at this event, if you look at his buy round numbers as well, specifically, if just in the buy rounds, he's just very soft, like doesn't do much. Which for a guy who gets he doesn't have to play anchor spots. You know, he gets to play like fairly well set up positions on T side. Like he gets to do a lot of what you expect a star rifler to do. The fact that he's not delivering is noteworthy. So look, I think there's some talent limitations, and it's asking a bit much for him to ask him to just go and develop a roster from nothing beyond this sort of level. I think it's a bit much to expect.
Yep, possible.
But okay, let's move on to non-European stuff. I think there's a lot of other MRQs. Would not go too deep in them, but let's start in Asia, because there were 3 separate MRQs for Asia. Nice and confusing to follow.
I thought this was dumb, but yeah.
I think the big story we really got out of this was God's Reign actually winning some matches. I mean, they won a BO3 against the Huns, which is the big shock. They didn't win anything else, but that's still such a huge upset for the books. As far as their usual level, on a good day they can get a BO1 over Feng Da. Like that's usually their level against the rest of Asia, when it's not just South Asian play. So I think that's a huge upset for them. But overall, the Asia regional goes the way of Mongolian's teams, the Mongolian teams. Unsurprisingly, given that there are 3 of them there.
Yeah. The ordering of which I think was surprising, though, and it's also a bit of a turnaround. Was a bit of a contrast. We went into this expecting the Huns to come out, right? We said that. We said that we thought it was a lot closer than people would give the other teams credit for, mostly because Huns having just appeared in a tier 1 event, and 9 had that. Honestly, just 9 had that sort of level of performance. So people who don't really pay attention to the domestic matchups might have gone like, well, it's going to be the Huns are going to sweep this. We were a bit more cautious, but we definitely put Huns as a favorite as well. Yeah. They lose to Chinggis to begin with, which is well done from Chinggis Warriors. Then Eruption actually take a pretty good win against Chinggis Warriors and make it into the final. And I thought they looked really solid to make it through. But then Chinggis Warriors, they go down against God's Reign. and that's an easy win. And then they actually take the not just they win the game like in the rematch, they also go down a map and they still bring it back. So they lost 3 straight maps to Eruption, and then they win the final 2, and that's what puts them in the major. And that's really well done. That's a good recovery, I think.
It's a shock, really. Genghis Warriors doing it. Like, they are... Yeah, like, Kulast has been, in the past, their, like, highest rated player. If you've watched the scene, that's a bit of a weird one. Like, he's not been... Like, he's kind of AWPing. He's not... I don't know what to make of this guy, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And at this event, it's Ariukal. I don't know how to say it. Ariukal, who top frags their final series, the big series. It's just a young guy, right, in the Mongolian scene that you don't pay too much attention to, even if you are watching the games. So it's a really odd mix of players to carry them over the line.
Yep.
Beating a lot of players we expect to be more proven. You know, for the Huns, 9, Yami, these guys we've seen play a lot, seen play very well. On Eruption, Score, obviously a huge name, but Fury 5k, people we're familiar with. Not necessarily as a super impactful player, but at least a familiarity bonus. Familiarity buff, so to speak. But there's, yeah, not the team I expect to come out at all in Genghis Warriors, and especially not in this way. So a really strange, result, I say, in the Asia regional qualifier, especially with the Huns in last place.
Yeah. And that's kind of exciting. It's a bunch more players who we always hear about this sort of hidden Mongolian talent pool which exists, which is what created the Mongols. And a lot of those players will say that like there's a lot of very unknown guys who are playing really well in Mongolia, but their presence doesn't really reach beyond Mongolia itself. So
yeah, but even when you watch Mongolian play, they don't necessarily pop off. That's what I'm saying. They don't necessarily pop out as that special. So when they come to an actual important event and all of a sudden upset each other, and it just makes you wonder how important those games they play domestically are to them. Like if they're not really showing up like the way they expect them to. Yeah.
So it's going to be cool to see them at the major to see if this talent pool is real. So yeah, it was cool that Genghis. I had mixed feelings about it because I kind of wanted Score to go through because I remember Score and I wanted Score to make it through here with Eruption. But I actually think it's kind of cool that we got Genghis Warriors instead because that's 5. I mean, Kulas, yeah, he's been around. He's still only 22, but he's been around. He was back on the Tiger team, which we have talked about in the past. As was News, but he's on Eruption, no? Yes, he was. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, so it's cool that we get a bunch of new names basically coming through, and that I like. This Ariakal kid, like you mentioned, I would probably say Ariakal. I don't know why I would say that. But this Ariakal kid, he's also been around. He played the Copenhagen RMR with Mag. But it's cool if we can get a bunch more of these players because look, there's gonna come a day when the Mongols are making changes for one reason or another. And these might be the names that end up going there then. Watch this space.
Doubt it. Highly doubt it. Just saying. If they're not Mara picks, they're probably not making it. And I think these guys have been too available for too long to now all of a sudden be on that shortlist. I doubt they make the switch. But China also had their own little MRQ, where 2 teams go through thanks to their understanding of how the rankings work. Wink, wink. Lin Vision take top spot. That's pretty cool to see for me. Big fan of Starry. Wanted to see these guys do well. Zaka, of course, performing as he tends to for this roster. But the other spot was up for debate, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I can't remember what we said. I remember I floated the idea of Tai Lu missing out. So maybe that's
Tai Lu missing out was something that we talked about in terms of there's no guarantee they win any of these series. We've seen mixed results from them. They do lose in the upper final to Lin Vision after their thrilling default victory over Dog Evil.
Yeah.
But then go down to the lower bracket to face Rare Atom, who had a similar thrilling victory over Dog Evil. And yeah, honestly, OT on map 1, take it over the line in the second map. It's nothing to really write home about. We kind of blew it up to be a little bit more than that in terms of Rare Atom potentially rocking the boat. But here we are. Tyloo, Linvision, the two teams I think most people are more familiar with as far as brands and the players on there, because Rare Atom, no one's really been paying attention to them since they lost Mercury and Moseo to Tyloo. Not really been on most people's radars. Just kind of surprising at their last outing, able to make a crazy, really crazy upset happen in Bucharest. Aside from that, not really a team anyone follows. So pretty much as expected in China. Although if you watched the games, just some of the most insane CS you'll ever see. Truly insane.
Yeah, I mean, this qualifier was a bit wild because of the Dog Evil debacle, which was, for those who don't know, Dog Evil had a player named Biza, BZA, who registered on the platform they were playing the qualifier on. He registered B5 is what it's called. He had registered a Steam account which was banned on that platform. So it's like if you tried to play a qualifier on Faceit and you registered with a Steam account which was banned on Faceit. That's basically what it was. Banned for cheating 7 years prior. And he was basically asked to change his Steam account on the platform, and he couldn't do it. I don't know why. If maybe he just for some reason didn't have another account. Valve upheld it because they were like, dude, you're banned for cheating, you can't play. And he ended up not playing, and his team ended up being disqualified, which I guess sucks for him. And he's also retired now. He screwed up so hard he retired immediately afterwards. So that's what happened with that. I think we had a very interesting state going into this, because Linvision maybe a bit disappeared, but maybe the strongest team talent-wise, like pound for pound. But
it's a strong debate between them and Tyloo, but the Tyloo problem is obviously the calling situation is a bit weird for them. But no, Linvision, they don't have the talent, but at the same time, Westmelon is like a fragging IGL, gets a lot of credit. Zaka and Starry, the other big names. Amelia and Call Me Sus are like can hit shots, especially Amelia, I feel like, but they're not considered super insane talents. It's just Tyloo are more stacked with stars potentially. It's just it makes more sense on Linvision. Yeah.
But then both Rare Atom and Tyloo had pretty big overperformances earlier in the year at big events. Yeah. Not even overperformances, just good performances. So it was interesting going in. Linvision going through. I like it. Tyloo going through. I like it. Like it would have been Tyloo have had a rough go of it managerially in the past past 2 years, where they've done very strange signings. They've let go players very strangely, like Story, aforementioned, joined Tyloo, and I think he joined. I can't remember which way it was around. If he was sold to Tyloo and then released, and Linvision signed him back on a free, or if it was the other way around, where Linvision lost him on a free and then bought him back.
I don't remember which way around it was, but it was still just a bit of farce. He was there so briefly, his roles made no sense, then he left.
And then they also had basically the Rare Atom roster for a while, with Makazze and them, and they had an experiment with going English speaking with Letni, Aristo, Emmy, Roga, Score next to, I think it was Slowly at the time. Very strange.
Back to 2023,
yeah, but like going back, because that's how far I think it's been. Since they were in a major in 2021 last time. Right. And since then, it's basically been Tyloo. You have a free spot in the major, but they never managed to materialize out of it. So for them to turn around, I think is good. They have a very talented roster. They have 5 good players, basically. So honestly, I have decent hope that they are going to do fine in this major. They're not one which I'm going to put 0-3. There's a chance they make it through, I think.
Well, I mean, the opening
But,
stage, not 03, I don't think. Not in stage 1. They're going to win something out of sheer chaos and bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough to see them going through, honestly, overall.
Yeah, there's a chance, but it's
Yeah. Non-zero.
Yeah.
When you talk about a talented roster, it's always a non-zero chance that they go through. It's just I've seen them play. They don't exactly make great use of it.
I probably wouldn't, even with the Bucharest, I think it was, even with that performance, I probably wouldn't have given the same odds to Rare Atom, so I'm glad that Tyler made it through. Because it gives us a slightly closer major, I think.
Yeah, and the final little Asian MRQ to talk about is the OCE one, which went exactly how I expected. I'm going to be clear and proper. I don't care. I got comments or people talking about Semper Fi. What about Semper Fi? Semper, fuck yourself. Like, no. What team have you been watching? They're really not that good. I don't know about Alistair. What is it about him that inspired so much confidence in people? No.
I think it was just that he played good. He played good to start off.
Played good where? Oceania. Don't care. He always did. It's Oceania. They then come across FlyQuest, who are essentially a Tier 2 EU team. Funnily enough, they got battered by a Tier 2 EU team. I'm not surprised. So, yeah, look, a bit tilting to get that kind of comment. Not really that big a deal, though. FlyQuest steamroll through. And that's all there really is to say. Like, Semper Fi managed to play them in the grand final. They finished second. Congrats. Talon neutered by their loss of Netic as well. Not really that threatening a team, too. So, this one was pretty boring, pretty just down Main Street. Nothing to think about. Regali gets to farm. End of the year, KD is going to look pretty. And that's about it.
Yeah. Nothing to talk about. It's the freest spot in all of the land.
Yeah, the easiest qualifier for them.
Yep.
Right, let's talk about the other region. The Americas. We had, I think actually one of the most interesting qualifiers was the South American regional qualifier. Because as much as you could make predictions, you could be fairly comfortable about certain things happening, there were no guarantees going into this one. It was a little more up in the air. And I told you, like, Imperial were my only pick I was happy with. Like, outright. Like, I'm a try guy. There's just no way they don't go through. But look, Legacy enters the top rated in terms of the rankings on HLTV. They end up actually falling short. They finish fourth. Sharks, weirdly high rated, don't make it out. They end up finishing fifth, sixth. Fluxo with Art, a team that a lot of people kind of rate. Like I see a lot of people talk about them quite positively. But I've had my doubts about just because I've seen them play, seen them lose games to teams like Odic, and just thought maybe there's something still missing. They actually end up top of their group, making it straight through. So very mixed sort of event in terms of teams people expected to go through, etc. And the third team who makes it out through the 5th, 6th decider and third place decider is Bestia at the end of it, with Tomashin leading the way for them. A wild ride in the end. Not something we saw in most qualifiers. This one truly a bit chaotic. Yep. But yeah, Bestia Fluxo join Imperial in stage 1. What was your take on all this?
We both predicted Imperial and Legacy would go through. Legacy lost in both of their qualification matches, so maybe we are just, maybe they are just pressure chokers. And I remember that I had Bestia going through actually, and it was literally just because I knew Tomashin was going to go big, and he went big. I didn't expect Fluxo to go through, because I remember I talked about them last week where they have been, like, Art and ZV are two players who have played majors, who have played well at majors. Like, if that could have brought them through. In the end, ZV does play really well, so props to him for that, for like again finding that form, which he maybe lost for a bit. But then you also have Kai and Melizin, who maybe if this was on land, they wouldn't have made it through. Like, just to put it that way, they're very, which is not to say they're cheating. I just realized it sounds like that. What I'm trying to say is they're very inexperienced. They're very young and very inexperienced. Kai, heralded as maybe the worst player in the world by a certain tier 1 analyst. Or desk.
I mean, he was horrible on Furia. That's just true.
He was, yeah. But yeah, so in that sense, I wouldn't have expected Fluxo to go through, but they managed it. Well done. And yeah, other than that, I think your picks were pretty good. Like I said, Bestia, they did really well. Tomashin, especially in the final game, big. Basically a repeat of what he did in the last armor for the Americas armor for the Shanghai Major, where they played, I think they played Complexity, Liquid, and M80, and that was their losses. And they end up 2-3, I think. But Tomashin was still literally the highest rated player of the Americas armor for Shanghai. So yeah. I expected this might happen again, and it did. And they did really good. The other players were also good. I'm not even sure. Yeah, Tomashin wasn't even the best player on his team. It was Lukhov. But they played a really solid event. And I'm happy to see Bestia make the major.
Yeah, pretty cool. We're going to see what comes out of it. Because obviously stage 1
did fine. Odic did fine, sorry.
Very interesting event. Just because of the mishmash of teams we get to see. That's one thing I do enjoy about what I call the major qualifier, is I do get to see like teams that are like tier 2 that I feel like are going to be good versus teams that I don't. You know, there's a lot of testing of who's actually going to be legit at the next level. Who's got that fire in them, who's got that dog. And we know, Tomashin has it. It's just a question of can he be on the right team. Or is Bestia, maybe this is their moment to prove it. They're the lowest ranked team at the stage 1, if I'm looking at the teams correctly. Even by Valve ranking, they're lowest ranked. So that could be huge for them as a place to really show off and prove their value.
Team who didn't even make it to the MRQ. I thought it was really strange that 9Z didn't go for Tomashin over the winter, considering that Shanghai armor. But they chose not to. And I think
chose not to is always a bit of a big word. They don't necessarily have all the money in the world, and Bestia don't necessarily have to give them a nice price. Like Tomashin is that level of talent.
Yeah,
I've watched his POV. Kid's fucking cracked.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Jesus, 9Z are 30th on the Americas ranking at this point.
They've plummeted, especially with the roster changes, losing a lot of points for that. They're down.
They're below the old Pain lineup with Kawas and Lux. I don't know why that one isn't the same one. Oh yeah, because they played with Rix. Okay. They're below Fury FE. They're below Shinden and MIBR FE and Bad News Capybaras. Yikes.
Yeah, they've taken a big hit. I mean, they've qualified for Fire League finals, I think. They went through the South Americas, qualified for that. Like, they're going to be better. They're going to climb back up. That's not really a concern. They're not that under-talented. I mean, Adam S doesn't entirely kill them. Let's put it that way. Like, the kid's not that bad.
Yeah.
Well, the guy. I think he's not that young anymore. But, look. Just looking at the field, what we're left with now for stage 1. It's going to be interesting. But before we actually talk about anything else, we do have to talk about the North American one. I forgot the North American one existed for a second there. This was the one we predicted the best. Yeah, we nailed the predictions on this one. So Big Shock, Complexity, Wildcard, the two teams the most tier 1 play this year, the teams who played the best. Just kind of waltz a bit through it, I guess. Like Wildcard drop a map to NRG. Again, not that crazy. If you look at the individuals, Fuzi back off the bench and absolutely cocking everyone. 1.46 rating, leads the way for the entire event. Yeah, ridiculous performance out of Fuzi. But look, we said the next team up on our list, NRG, they go through third. They take a 3-map victory over Getting Info, another team we said we liked, in the 5th-6th decider. Take out Blue Jays rather comfortably in the final BO3. And here we are. The teams we predicted to be the best. Turns out they're pretty damn good. I think, we're not that smart, but we were able to figure that one out for ourselves.
Yeah, I think the next best teams we said were, we basically It's so boring to just predict the 3 solid shoe-ins we both said. I think you said Marsborn and Getting Info.
Yeah, you're a fan of
And
Marsborn. I like Getting Info because they got Fang, and that's about it.
Yeah, Marsborn could have very well made the final. There was double overtime in the final map there against Blue Jays, and Getting Info as well took a map off of NRG. I think we did really good. Entirely predictable, boring even. But I'm happy for the guys. Complexity obviously should have made it through, especially with the form they had. I think it would have been would have been a shame if we missed out having Complexity at the major, and Wildcard as well. Same to them. At the start of the year, I floated the idea of Wildcard making Austin major playoffs.
Yeah, it feels a bit ambitious considering we've not seen quite the development and strides taken by players like J-Bon Land still has his consistency issues. Susp and Sonic can be good, but they're more like solid players rather than stars typically on this roster. And whilst Fuzi does win the occasional miracle clutch for them against big names and keeps them in games and keeps them, honestly, wins them series sometimes, there's only so much he can do. We do need to see another level from some of the riflers if we really believe in that playoff idea, but it's not impossible.
I thought I was expecting slightly faster development, but yeah. Solid work, and that should be the MRQs.
It is, but we're on to the small site retake, and I'm going to start off with another MRQ take. BO1s are a crime. It's 2025. We have this conversation far too often. Can we stop with the BO1s? They don't make sense in CSGO. They sure as shit don't make sense in CS2 with this, MR13 play. Just get rid of it. I hate it. It's abhorrent, and we've proven time and time again now with PGL, you can run a BO3 Swiss in a condensed time schedule. Like, it doesn't need to take forever. And so the fact that we end up with such a, like, we talked about the European MRQ being one of the closest, right? Being really hard to pick who's going to come out of it. The fact that we have to start with the fucking lottery nonsense of BO1s just pissed me off. There was no need for it. And it really put a downer on the first day of play, basically. Well, actually, part of the second as well, if you're talking about the 1-1 games. There's just no point to having this sort of stuff. Please just make BO3s a reality at all levels of play, across the board, in every match. It should be the bare minimum, the C3 maps between pro-level teams. We shouldn't be watching matchmaking bullshit, pug-type play, in terms of BO1s at this level. It's done. That's my mini rant. But yeah, look, if you look at the first day, we come out of it. Who's in the O2 games? Bates, Parry, Vision, Gamer Legion, and 500. 3 of the strongest teams at the entire event had to go down to O2 because they played BO1s. And sure, some of them you might say, oh yeah, Parry Vision will probably lose a BO3 to Heroic. Probably. Didn't get a chance to prove otherwise, considering they do have a pretty deep map pool, strong individuals, solid calling. They then lose a BO1 to Astralis. You're telling me, with the way Astralis played this event, you expect Astralis to win a BO3 against Parry Vision? Nah. I'll go Parry Vision win that every time. But we only get to play one map of fucking Mirage. Like, this feels silly. Just run these events properly. I didn't think it was that hard.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate the PGL point. They did it they run the same Swiss format. So look, we had how many days for this Swiss stage? It was 3 days with the decider games as well, but they tacked those on.
It was 4 days total of play. 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Oh yeah, 4 days total. And what PGL do the same in? If I just say, let me just pick Rest, for example. They had the Swiss stage games, which were the final Swiss stage games. Falcons, Mongols. April 6th through April 10th.
5 days.
Were the 5 days. And they do that on LAN.
And they're running a full broadcast, so they can't play more than 2 games at once, really. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing stopping you scheduling 4 games at the same time here. Nothing.
No, yeah, do it. The casters need work.
Casters need work. Plus, hell, you can not even broadcast half of them and let the co-streams do their fucking thing. Everyone's going to be tuning in anyway to watch their team. So you don't have to have this 2 game at a time bullshit for the BO3s. So there's so many reasons not to do what has been done, and not waste our time with dumb BO1s. But here we are. We're still letting this stuff ride, apparently, Valve. We're still just letting this happen. It's your game, step the fuck up. We don't want to ruin the best region with the worst CS formats. This is essentially what's happened here.
Yep. Yeah. What it's about.
But that was very simply my point. Like, I you know me, I'm not the small site guy. I'm not paying attention to those sorts of things, typically.
Yep.
There's usually a lot of drama. And speaking of drama, your take certainly is dramatic.
There's been a lot of talk about Wildcard and if they are American or European. Because they, with the lineup they had, shouldn't have been in the North American MRQ. And that's pretty much definitively a fact at this point. That's not even much of an opinion. A short view back to the past. They played an event with Stewie 2K in order to guarantee a spot at the NA MRQ, which is a loophole which exists because that changes their ranked lineup to include Stewie instead of their actual lineup with Fuzi, which gives them an absolute North American majority, which is what puts them in the North American MRQ. Otherwise, they would have had a tie. NA and EU would have had 2 spots each, which means that they would have gone to the MRQ with the most major spots, which is Europe. So they screwed with that, and they managed to guarantee themselves a spot in the NA MRQ. I'm not overly pissed about that. I think they saw an opportunity and took it. It's not even that egregious because I'd say it's even in the spirit of the rules, spirit of the game. They are an NA team, unlike Liquid, for example. They actually play in North America. All 5 of their players live in North America. It's a North American org investing in local North American play. That's what they do every day. Otherwise, unlike Liquid, who are based in the Netherlands and only use the North American angle. At this point, they might honestly be using it only to get an easy spot because, like, do they have that many NA fans? Anyway, there's... So, Wildcard did that. Valve... I'm going to go as far and say that Valve could have stopped them doing this if they wanted to. Because there is an amendment to the rules after Drillas pulled some similar shit last year. Which says that when you receive an invite for the MRQ, the accepting roster can have 2 out of 5 players changed. So you can, as long as there's a core of 3 players to accept the invite, the accepting roster can be different from the invited roster. So long as the accepting roster also satisfies the original regional criteria. So this is basically to say that if you drill us and you receive let's say your last year's drill us roster, you have a Moroccan player which counts as Asia, and then you have 2 Israeli players who count as Asia, and then 2 Europeans. So that's the situation drillers were in last year. They receive an invite to the Asian MRQ, and what you can't do is change the 2 Israeli players for 2 Europeans and still accept the invite, because that changes the original regional criteria. Per definition, Wildcard have changed their regional criteria. That's the entire point they used to in the first place. So Valve could absolutely have said, no, you're going to the European MRQ. They chose not to, and I'm gonna assume they chose not to. Otherwise, they're dumb. Maybe they just didn't realize that this loophole existed when it didn't need to, or Wildcard gaslit them into thinking there's a loophole in the rules when they weren't. They chose to allow them to play, and I think that's fine. Again, it's like they're correcting an error which Valve have made, which is that they are a North American team. I'm not even sure they would have needed to do this when you consider stuff like A team like Akimbo, who last year were allowed to play in the North American MRQ because they might have had 3 Mongolian nationals. They can't afford to go to Asia to play for the MRQ. So um, it's like it's a whole issue, and I think my issue with it really is that this is obviously overly complex. This is overly complex because the rules were tacked on as a fix to a fix, which just created even more loopholes.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of stupid that we go by nationality rather than, where do you live? Where do you play? Wildcard, like I said, they provably are a North American team. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't consider Wildcard a North American team. Wildcard gave the Americas RMR a North American spot in Shanghai. They didn't get a European spot, and wouldn't have been a European spot if you put them in the EU MRQ. Then in that case, they would have worked to create a North American spot, but they couldn't use it themselves, even with the exact same lineup. So that also wouldn't have made any sense. So yeah, I saw, because some people on social media riled people up over this. Swisher mainly made a thread where he basically pointed this out, where like it's very wacky how they end up in the NAMRQ, and I think a lot of people interpreted that as they shouldn't be in the NAMRQ, and they were pissed, and it's no reason to. It's fully reasonable. So yeah, it's another VRS quirk. It's needlessly complex because Valve have made it such, and which is a bit tiring. And I don't know what the fix is. I think you just open qualifiers would be a fix. Sign up for whatever open qualifier, whichever region you happen to be in.
Yeah, have fun playing a 48,000 team BO1 elimination bracket over 4 days. Don't hit the cheaters, kids. Yeah, online qualifiers are never the fucking solution. Like,
maybe if you rank the events per region instead, it wouldn't matter who played in them, and you could say that like you could literally look at Wildcard's ranked events and go, yeah, you've played North American ECL, and therefore you're North American.
That's a better way of determining it. I mean, look, I think you're entirely right that where they play matters a lot. The fact that they occupy, in terms of Valve concepts, both EU and NA, is a thing. But they've clearly got a determination. They play in North America. They compete in North America primarily. I mean, sure, when they go to international play, it's international play, whatever. But their chosen region, essentially, is North America.
Yep.
And I think that's fine. I think we could have just left it at that. Instead, they had to try. What makes it dirty, what makes it feel wrong, is their little maneuver with Stewie to try and guarantee it. That's something that as we said, with Akimbo, they shouldn't, like, that precedent was there. They shouldn't have had to do it. Like, where you live and compete should just finish it off. I mean, I do think it'd be a bit silly if tomorrow, like, the 8th best European team were like, oh, no, actually, we live in Los Angeles. Like, what? Yes, we all have houses there. Sure, you'd get into a whole other rat fuck debate, but them having to do something ratty to try and confirm something that was basically true is where the scummy feeling comes from, right?
Yeah, there's another one. Another thing people misinterpreted was that they thought it somehow would matter which team was on HLTV. Like, if Stewie was really part of the team, that somehow would matter if they got the invite or not, which it didn't. But some people thought that, and it made it seem even more scummy to those people because, in their opinion, Wildcard worded the announcement of Stewie very, like, ambiguously. Because they basically just posted a picture of Stewie and said, he's here. And it was like, is he on the team? Is he not on the team? Nobody knew. They didn't really say. They didn't have to. He just had to play. But people thought that, they left it ambiguously so they could claim the invite, but then, bench him and don't, like, that's something else which people thought sounded even more ratty, but it just wasn't. So yeah, they just they did a thing which they were allowed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on Wildcard side on this one. As much as I do hate the idea of teams abusing roster construction to get easier RMRs, this is one of those cases where it's just strange because they have explicitly competed in North America. Sonic isn't an African player at this point. Like, he's played almost, like, his meaningful career is almost exclusively in North America, right? Like, he's been there so goddamn long. It just feels strange to now just be like, nah, 2-2, we shouldn't really allow this. Like, nah. It feels a bit silly. Like, he's been there since 2020, like since COVID, basically. Sonic
even longer actually, because both ATK teams were also South America or North America based, and the Bravado team was as well. He hasn't played in South Africa since 2018.
Holy crap!
Yeah, because that Bravado team.
Yeah, Bravado was playing in North America too. Yeah, they didn't play in South Africa. They were in South Africa.
Start of 2017.
2017 they were in South Africa. 2018 they moved to North America. So yeah, he's been there for so long. It feels right to allow this guy to basically claim Counter-Strike nationality of North American. So really, in that sense, they're a majority. But yeah, all the things we said all apply. I think it's pretty cut and dry.
If it was the other way around, if this was Liquid, who are based in the Netherlands and only play international play, if they had somehow fallen off enough where they would have been wildcard spot, and Wildcard would have taken one of the main America spots, that would have been egregious, because they never play North America.
Well, there was that conversation we had really early on in the year about Liquid using their stupid Asian quirk to try and get into Asia at one point. Like, there was that whole debate about how that would be really ratty for them to do that, because they're clearly not Asian. Like, they just don't.
Yeah.
They don't rep that region, you know? They don't wear those colors. Like, that's just not them.
Yeah, but at this point, I would even say they're not even American. The org is Dutch. It's been Dutch for years.
Yeah, the org being Dutch is
all live in Europe.
It's the same way all of Sweden's majors, like, half of them are British. Like, Fnatic is a UK team.
Yeah, but all of these people live in Europe as well. It's like,
they do.
Nobody here is American. Like, no, maybe Naf goes home over Christmas. Like, that's how it feels.
Naf and Twist go home for Christmas, right? That's the difference.
Not even Twist. He lives in. He's like.
I mean, I'm sure his entire family hasn't moved to Europe. Come on.
I think he hates his family.
I actually joke about that. This is a complete tangent. I joke that a guy at my gym like hates his wife because he's like he works crazy early. Like, he starts work really early doing some sort of manual labor job. He runs a small like man and van type company where he does something, but he starts relatively early. And then after work, he basically says he gets home, naps, and then goes to the gym. And then goes to bed early because he's got to wake up. And I was like, does this guy just hate his wife?
Yeah.
Just never home.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this opens up the can of worms, which is your major qualification is determined by where were you during Christmas? Where did you go?
Yeah, that'd be really silly.
Yeah,
where were you
doing Christmas in... Everybody just starts doing Christmas in Bali.
Yeah, give us that Asian MRQ spot, man. Come on.
Yeah.
But all right. Moving on from this, we do have a bit of a smaller event, but one that I think is quite important. We'll get to why exactly in a second, but it's Yalla Spring. And this is a pretty significant Tier 2 result. Because holy crap, Na'Vi Jr. smoked this event. They went 5-0 in the opening group stage, which was all BO1. Hate BO1, but sure, whatever. I don't make these formats. If I could, I would change it all to BO3. Then beat Eklock in the semi-final in a BO3, and then in the grand final, 2-0 beat ENCE. And over the course of this run, Makazze, oh my lord, my little baby prospect boy, outperforms Kyosuke in rating, of course, naturally, as he does. Has one negative map, like one BO1 that's like sub 1.0. In the BO3 final, a 2.25, a 2.23 on Ancient to close it out. Actually insane. Makazze, an absolute monster. And overall, the conversation has started to come around. Coolio, I think himself, starting it in an interview with Ted CS, about Na'Vi Jr. no longer being an academy team. And I think at this point, the most valuable core in the world you can pick up from Tier 2 play, like one of the most, I mean, the most is a bit over the top, but one of the most valuable, is Makazze, Krabany, and honestly, of the other guys, it's difficult to say exactly who's probably best. I think Demon might be long-term the best pick. I've really liked a lot of things he's done. But man, him or Jigs, I think, could be fine. And take Coolio with them whilst you're at it, because they've just been playing such good CS for so long. Got some real talents on this roster, still very young. This is a team for the future, and if you're an org trying to get back into CS, we'll see how real envious are about that. Because if they're trying to get back into CS, really, probably come to EU. If you're trying to
Buy Navi Junior, yeah.
If you're trying to be nice to North America, go have fun, do whatever, but you're not going to be much unless you buy one of the existing rosters. But look, Navi Junior, that core, you don't have to pick all of them. You can probably mix and match some pieces. That core 3 is going to be super valuable. Krabbenny's a Fragna GL. Makazze is just an absolute beast on the opening front. This is a team to watch. And yeah, Compass Spring, Yalla Compass Spring, taken home by Navi Junior. Far better than just an academy.
Yeah. I started thinking about weird North American Navi Junior hybrids. Now that you talked about this.
Okay.
I started putting together shit like Marky and Fang together with Krabbenny, Makazze, and Symmetry.
Please don't.
Play with it for a couple of days and then like 10 games and then you put Dia back in. No,
Please
they
don't.
played a good event. They played a good event, and this is it's the round robin format of these groups is painful, especially when I'm looking at Group B, because BetBoom played 5 very close matches, but they won all of them. Spirit Academy had very close losses in their first 3 games. And then they win 2 games, one of them pretty solid. Like, Medisport's biggest loss in this entire event was against Spirit Academy, 13-9. They still go last in the group. Spirit don't make it through. ENCE make it through just because they beat Spirit in overtime. That was the only reason. They lost to one of the eliminated teams. Like, it makes no sense. And here's, like, Nexus somehow making it through as well.
The best part is, sorry, but BetBoom, you say they only win those close BO1s. They go straight to the semi. They win a close first map, then lose the next 2. So clearly, in terms of BO3s, we'd have had a very different result if the group was played properly.
Yeah, best of 3 round robin would have been hell also. But like, just in terms of map count. But actually, no, make it happen. We had that in ESL Pro League for a while, and that was good. That's how Nerds basically had his first standout moment when he beat Navi. Anyway.
Yeah.
Navi make it through, and this is a really solid win. To me, it's slightly tarnished over the fact that it's online, and a lot of the MRQ teams were obviously missing. That's the reason why Navi are here in the first place.
Well, they're not here in the first place because of that. They have a pretty solid fucking ranking. But more importantly, Metasport showed up and didn't win. Certain teams were able to play. Like, it's after the MRQ. It's just not everyone did.
Yeah, but like, you had a couple of invited teams straight to the event, I think. All of them pulled out. It was like, remember that like Aurora and Astralis were supposed to be here.
Yeah, it was supposed to be at LAN as well.
Yeah, it was supposed to be on LAN, but like the original invites, we were supposed to have Aurora, Astralis, Pain, VP, 3D Max, and MIBR were originally invited. Everybody pulled out. And then also from the qualifier, I think most of the teams that Complexity. They stayed. The qualified teams stayed. But like, all of the qualifier was null and void because basically everybody got into the event anyway, and then you had to get even more replacement invites. So it's a little bit like, it was scaled up to be an event of tier 1.5 caliber. It was scaled up to be an A tier event. There's a big prize pool for it. I'm not sure if I would say the opposition is. This is very much CCT tier. So, not to take away too much from the achievement that Navi Junior did, because I wouldn't have penned them to win the event in the first place. So, good on them. They beat expectations. But it definitely was a weaker event than it was supposed to be. So,
this was supposed to be a LAN with a bunch of tier 1.5 teams. Instead, it's an online cup. But essentially, we're talking about, was it at worst a CCT cup? Like, this is still a lot of solid teams. And for Na'Vi, I think to show off that they are clearly Na'Vi Junior, they've just outgrown being a junior. You know, they've outgrown being an academy, and not all the players I think are ready for a step up. But enough of them are that you could take a core of this team, take their ranking spots. They're currently 38th on VRS, 20th on Valve's ranking after that win, and 36th in HLTV ranking. So just to get a more realistic review of where they are. But yeah, 20th in Valve ranking. You could have that core. Like, that's insane in terms of getting your brand out there. So Na'Vi Junior, absolutely monstrous to win this and get themselves in such a ridiculous spot that they're now going to have to start turning down invites, pretty much, because Na'Vi are actually at the event. That's ridiculous. And look, if they do go on to become a really strong team, there's going to be some questions about Na'Vi. As they keep sliding, they keep struggling. I'm not sure what I think they won Mirage, right? Surely they didn't lose Mirage from the.
They're about to win 11-5. 11-5. They lost to Nubis.
I know they lost to Nubis, but like, there's no way they got 2-0 today. But still, they're not exactly looking super hot. The individuals have been under scrutiny quite heavily recently. If you start getting caught up by Na'Vi Junior, and then Na'Vi Junior gets sold as a core to a different roster, to a different org, you're going to look really dumb. So I think there's something's got to change in Na'Vi, whether it's be their kids go loose and go fucking spread out across the tier 2 scene, or they make a change in their main roster to hold on to a talent like Makazze. We'll have to see, but something's coming down the pipeline in Natus Vincere.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, something could happen. I don't think anybody buys Na'Vi Junior because the price would be egregious. But Makazze to the main team is definitely a debate, which is going on, rightfully so. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what happens there.
Yeah, I think some tier 2 stuff to talk about in terms of what's going on at this event. I think Group A, seeing Gun 5 continue to struggle in the post-Tanir world kind of sucks. They had some moments with Cielo and Steim, stepping up, having a lot of impact, winning games, and maybe they'd have a better chance if this event was BO3's, because they've not been terrible. They've struggled of late, but prior to this, they had a good run at Galaxy Battle Starter. They had a good run at the PGL Stana qualifier. Beating some legit teams in March. It's just this has been their only event in April, and they lost a bunch of BO1s. Disappointing for them, but more of a product of the environment. When you look at their results, like beat Paravision, they lost the opening BO1 on Dust 2, and then won 2 more. They won the next 2 maps, made it a BO3 win. Like, that's the kind of thing that we're frustrated about when it comes to BO1s still existing at any level of play. We want to see proper tests. We want to see real games. This is just a very disappointing end for some of these rosters.
Yeah.
Okay. We do not have any Cox this week.
No, I've been looking, and I couldn't find any.
So we're instead going to briefly talk about IEM Melbourne. Going on right now, day 1. Falcons are still playing Saw. They should be winning 2-0 given their lead now on Dust 2. But we're not sure. And Na'Vi, as we just said, are on the other stream playing Mirage. Probably about to win their Mirage against MIBR. Let's go to map 3. But there have been some... the rest of the games have all been played. Good number of results to glance at. What's the first thing that caught your eye when you went down the list, Quack?
This is so far very predictable. The Liquid game was kind of very close, and it comes down to a Virtus Pro throw in like just those final couple of rounds. Even the final round, even. Everything else is very predictable. I feel like Mouse definitely should have taken that win. I guess maybe the most eye-catching thing is that some of these games are closer than they should be. Complexity nearly taking a win. Pain played 13-11 times 2 against FaZe with their coach and an academy player playing instead of their in-game leader. Like Big Uzera is not here.
Yeah, with Rix and Demo, they still
Yeah.
almost took a map against FaZe both times. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Big made Mouse sweat as well. This is closer than I definitely thought. This is Navi MIBR game. Like, it's already closer than you definitely would have thought. So I think that's mostly it. But in the end, the outcome of these opening games are pretty much all predictable, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Game Legion 3D Max is one of the ones where it's like, it's a nice return to predictability. Because we all like Gamer Legion, but based on the recent results for 3D Max and the recent results for Gamer Legion, you could have argued, they probably were if you look at the odds before the game, 3D Max favourites to win it. 3D Max more likely to take it across the line. But I think a lot of the closeness we're talking about, where the favourites are playing close against underdogs, I think that's I think Elfish Guy was referring to it as like sort of the Melbourne effect. That, not Melbourne specifically, but like the Australia effect, having to travel all that way, being upside down, like it just kind of leads to some dodgy results, you know? Some teams don't play up to their level. They're not used to dealing with the level of jet lag they have to experience. What's that racket? I think my flatmate just dropped a bunch of shit. And so I think that's probably a bit of a reason why we're seeing some close games. But overall, you're right. Pretty much every favourite one. Pretty much.
Yeah.
There's not much to reply, like in terms of, oh, this was a shock, this shouldn't have happened. Aside from Big winning a map against Mouse, which I think is, come on, Mouse, wake up. Aside from that, nothing really to report.
Yeah, even the GL game, maybe technically an upset, maybe especially after the MRQ, but like hearing ZTR talk about the how they felt during the MRQ and how they sort of bounced back, I don't think like the MRQ was a whole different thing. We already talked about how like it's online, it's best of ones. This is a factor of it. Also, they're mental. They're not experienced at this. It's basically what he said. Rez is the only guy who has any sort of experience of even playing at a major.
No.
Sorry, no. They did play Shanghai, of course, but they've only done it once. So like it's a big moment for all of them. So not overly surprised at that. I'd say going forward here, I'm not going to be watching these games because they're very early in the morning.
Oh, some of them are way too early.
Yeah, most people wouldn't be watching. I think we have a fairly straightforward Mouse Mongoose upper final in Group A, and then I think probably I'll take Gamer Legion to make it through the lower final of Group A.
I don't think it's anywhere near a guarantee that we get Mouse Mongols.
No, but I think Mongols they'll shape up against FaZe, and then Gamer Legion could upset Mouse.
Like, I'm not worried about FaZe Mongols. FaZe look kind of weak so far, but Gamer Legion strong. Mouse, I mean, fine, but not exactly shining bright. That's an upset waiting to happen, if anything, in this group. Like, that's an upset right there. No guarantees, of course. Never are any in this world, but I wouldn't put it past Gamer Legion to get that win.
I'll still say Mouse Mongols, and I think Mouse win the group. And then Gamer Legion, at some point, they knock out FaZe in the lower bracket. Second group, I don't know. Vitality obviously win.
Yeah, but after that...
After that, I'll...
Yeah, pick two teams out of that group that you're sure are going to do well. Like, you know what I mean?
I'll say Falcons to the upper final, and then Liquid make it through the lower bracket.
Ooh, fucked, Navi. Get fucked.
Yeah, I don't think they make it. I think we might end up with Navi Liquid in the last game. Oh, maybe we can't. Maybe I'm... Anyway, at some point, I think they'll face off, and Liquid will take it.
Yeah, you can't.
Just for
no, you could. No, could you?
If Navi win, I think maybe they'll play the
FlyQuest
VP winner. Yeah,
yeah,
and then it's possible.
Let me see.
Then it's possible.
We did a double swing episode for this event. Which teams? I mean, honestly, Yumi's got himself nicely covered with a Gamer Legion and Mouse picked, but he does have Navi and Saw otherwise, which is a bit of an issue. Unfortunately for Elfish, he does have Cole instead of Spirit. He has Mongols, Liquid, and FlyQuest. Some interesting picks there. Some teams that could miss out. I've got Vitality, thank the heavens, because otherwise it's kind of gross. 3D Max and Pain are my underdogs. Again, kind of gross. FaZe is my other favourite. I'm not super psyched right now, based on what I've seen.
Oh, Spirit pulled out, right?
Yes.
I was very confused about the fact that Spirit was one of Elfish's picks.
Yeah, they're now Complexity.
Oh, okay.
They've been replaced so that he gets Complexity instead, which isn't fun.
That's a shitty situation, yeah.
Yeah.
Complexity could make it.
Yeah, I mean, they could through a low
make
bracket run if they play as well as they did last time. But come on, Holzerk playing at that level, we need that as well as Grim going full beast mode. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's got it in him. But hey, fingers crossed for Elfish. They do. Be interesting to see what happens. I mean, look at Falcons finally getting a step close to closing their series. MIB on RV, what's going on? Still waiting for map 3. Okay, never mind. But all right. That's all there really is to say about Melbourne, because it's only day one. We just thought we'd talk about it because it's there, it's happening. Do
you want to pick? Do you want to pick a winner? Do you want to pick a winner, because we're going to miss the final?
Vitality.
Yeah.
As I picked in the double swing, I picked Vitality to win the event. Obviously, no, I picked them as my first favorite because I thought they'd finish 6th. Nah, come on, they're my favorite.
There's an additional $100,000 to the team which knocks out Vitality if they do it, because they are going to deny them the Grand Slam.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I have a hard time seeing it, but look, we have teams like Mouse who've shown a level at times to be able to compete, at least, not necessarily win, but compete with Vitality. You know, they weren't that far off beating them in that last grand final. We have. Falcons are a bit of a wild card. They're a dark horse in the most literal sense, because you don't really know what's happening. They're dangerous. They've got bloody hell. They got Munacy for crying out loud. He can win a series outright by himself, even if it is a best of 5. And that seems like a bit of a long shot.
Honeymoon?
Honeymoon? Question mark. But also, if they face him in a semi rather than a grand final, that could be interesting. So
it could be interesting. Yeah.
So we'll see what comes out of this. I definitely think Vitality has to be heavy favourites given spirits aren't around. That kind of, for me, was a bit like that's the final nail in the coffin. Like, that's it. Grand Slam over. All right, Falcons just won. But yeah, Grand Slam complete. Like, you don't even have the biggest threat to your reign at this event. Mouse have been cool, but Spirits still have the donk factor. They still have the experience, the pedigree of actually having won events of that caliber recently with this roster. For me, that was the big threat to them. Them not being around. Easy peasy Vitality.
Yeah. True. I don't have any qualms.
Wasn't expecting.
Maybe Mouse. Yeah, maybe Mouse take them out in the semi-final or something. So, but that's
maybe
if they're in the final, Vitality are winning.
I think so. They're just too well-rounded. Too much going for them. They're really strong. But all right, that brings us to the Eternal Shuffle. Quack, what's happened? There doesn't seem to be a lot on the sheet.
No, it's small this week. We didn't have too much happening. Most of the stuff got confirmed like last week's episode during the recording of it. We had the Monacy saga ending. We had a culmination to all of that. Even Furia Molodor happened at that point. So
yeah,
I'm gonna rattle off the first one, which is maybe the biggest one. Perfecto is a free agent. Cloud9 have finally released him.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
No grading for this. It's obviously S+ tier that Perfecto is a free agent.
I mean,
I wanted to ask you, where do you want to put him? If you... No, come on. If you're forced, you're Perfecto's agent at this point. You have to put him somewhere.
Obviously, if I'm Perfecto's agent, put him in Spirit and sign him for 600k a month. Okay,
you're Perfecto's agent and the agent of the team who's signing him. You're both of them.
If I'm both those practice, it's slight conflict.
You have to make it a win-win.
I mean, poor Perfecto in this context, he gets screwed in his salary. But let's see. Yarus.
I think he's fine.
Where's the teams? Regional, Russia.
Betboom made the major. They're off limits. Otherwise, him for Siren would have
so
been
they
the
have to be
obvious one.
someone who's not at the major either. I can't literally put him in the dream spot. I mean,
Okay.
put him in Paravision for Travis tomorrow. And yeah, no, without hesitation, put him in there for Travis now. I don't care for Travis.
I like it.
Good for you, but I don't. Get him out. He's part of the reason Amcal played such shit CS. A lot of it's him, so get him out.
I like the move. I like the move. Yeah.
Otherwise, obviously,
Nemiga.
just stick him in. Just stick him in fucking Spirit. Stick him in VP. Stick him in Betboom. All of these are valid. They're all valid. It's one of those things where it's like so many teams are not killed or slightly improved by a guy like him, given his play in Egoisto and things like that. So it's one of those I don't care. Just finish it. Just do it. Type moves.
I'd put him in. I'd put him in any Russian team. To be honest, I'd put him in Betboom for Siren, Nemiga for Risky Bob, I assume.
I don't want him in
Maybe
Nemiga
Lear.
because I don't like Nemiga.
Perivision for Travis, 9 Pandas for Crad. Good move.
Yeah,
He didn't want to go to
Gun
Gun 5, so I'm not going to mention
Nemiga
it.
as well. So
Well,
Risky Bob's the play, probably. But the Risky Bob hard entries a lot, so I don't know. I guess he does a lot of hard entering, but so does fucking everyone who's not Xanta or Zwei. So I guess put him in there and sort out your roles. That's part of the reason I don't want him on Nemiga, though, because I don't really like the way they're built. They don't make a lot of sense to me. So
PB,
elsewhere.
9 Pandas, or Betboom over the summer. I'd say that. If that doesn't happen, I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Fecto's going somewhere. Let's put it that way. He's going to end up somewhere in these Russian teams. If not, someone international will take the risk.
I just realized, he does speak English. Is there anywhere I would put him though? I thought about if he has a spot on face. I don't think he does.
I mean, with Rain playing out of his spots anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's what would have been the move. There was somebody else I was thinking about for Rain, but I forget who now. Put him back in Navi. Would be something. Imagine that.
For JL?
Yes. Maybe Bit leaves himself. No. Okay, let's...
Oh my god, poor Navi.
Bit makes the Falcons transfer with Alexi B, and then bring in Perfecto and Boomage. Easy. There's a few other places I would put him. Yeah, okay. Next meme. Red Canids have cut their two most recent signings, Phelps and Henny, after failing to make the major.
Yeah, Red Canids don't know what the fuck they're doing, do they?
Sorry, Drop was also after that, but other than that, they've cut their two best signings.
They're just doing shit at this point. I don't really... Like, it seems coldzera just can't be on a team that's well run, and it's just a coincidence, guys. It's all coincidence. It's just like when Nico for years just couldn't be on a team that made the right moves. But it's not Nico making things happen. It's not Nico. Don't look at him. Guys, come on. It's Hooksy's fault. Anyway, I don't know what the hell they're playing at. They obviously need to make changes because they're just not at the level they should be. But yeah, coldzera just still here. Clearly not the problem, though. Whatever.
No. Liquipedia lists them as having Nizin. I don't think that's correct, though. No, they used to have him, but Drop replaced him.
Is he still technically signed on the bench or something? Like that HLTV's missed?
No, he was loaned from Pain, and I think that loan ended when they signed Drop. So Liquipedia probably made a miss. Henny has been really good for Red Canids. He's been 109 while hopping. Phelps was also really good for Red Canids. He was 112. Phelps just keeps putting good numbers every single team he goes to, but they still bench him.
We'll see why. But I'm not moved by this project. I never was, really. I've never been a big coldzera guy.
No, I think it was cool when it began, and then they keep attracting good players. Like they keep attracting.
Yeah, that's the Cold Zero effect, really. It's they get to make the signs they want, plus I think they have decent backing. They get to make the change they want to make. It's just, gee, why do you keep making these changes? This is all they want to happen. This is like some solid talent coming in and out, but they just never get the right mix, and it's just not Cold Zero though.
So they came back briefly with a different roster, and now they came back again, and that was with Nathan was here, Davideus was here, Hardzao, and Venom Zera. And since then, they've also had Cold Sarah, Henny, Phelps, and Drop. And those are very solid names for a team like Red Canids who are never doing anything. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Right, next move. 500 have cut their best player ships.
Best player's generous.
I think he was. Like,
yeah, I don't care for their overall ratings. Like,
he's 116 next to Rainwaker's 109 and Oxygen's 108. Turk, I won't even mention.
Look, they've needed a change. And in his latest stint, he's been 112. I don't know. It's just it's a bit of a weird roster who had this massive explosion this year. Obviously, we had the cheating allegations, accusations, remonstrations. It was a lot of very weak nothing. A very poorly made case at best. A genuine witch hunt at worst. Not much else to say, really. I don't know. This team needed change, and I think Ships was calling. No, Spellan obviously was calling.
No, Spellan was.
Spellan, obviously. Forgot he was there. You'd be
forgiven.
Be forgiven for thinking he wasn't on the team sometimes. But realistically, this team's problem isn't Ships. I don't think it's Ships. I think the problem they have is Circa's kind of ass, and they have a very gimmicky, readable style. If you actually bother to read it, some people are allergic to reading opponents, and they end up getting wrecked by a team of 500 caliber. But overall, they're not that good. And I guess the Ships change is warranted in that sense.
I don't know if you've made a team for the CCT Global Finals Fantasy, but if you haven't, can you just guess who is playing that event instead of Ships? Just take one guess on a Bulgarian player you think might be standing in.
A stand-in Bulgarian was going to be like Red Star.
Yeah, it's Red Star.
Of course it's fucking Red Star.
Of course it's Red Star, yeah. It's the most obvious move.
Why is it
also a good player.
Red Star?
He's also a good player, but
why does no one ever want him on their team? Like really on their team?
Yeah.
How much of a dick is this guy?
I mean, no, I don't know.
Like, how much of an unbearable twat you have to be that good and always picked as a stand-in, but never on a real team, like for any extended period?
Yeah, he played with Smuya as well, so maybe it lines up.
That makes sense. Never mind.
Yeah. Always a bridesmaid. Yeah, and that's all the shuffles. I don't think we had the odd rumor about Simple being potential signing for Furia instead of fucking
instead of Holodoy or instead he came in Fallen. That was the rumor. Yeah, get fucked. Whoever leaked that. Like, shut up. What are you making up now?
I'm gonna try to source this. Osni posted it, but he also cited a different source.
It came from a Brazilian guy who famously chats absolute bollocks.
Oh, fuck it then, yeah.
Like, it was the most nonsensical, rumor. And it came from a guy who's famously full of it.
They're talking to Simple, and the chances for him to come are big, was the rumor. I know, yeah, it's that's the only other decent-sized roster league. I mean, you could call this shuffle. Both Astralis have money problems, and there's rumors about 9 Pandas maybe closing.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, that makes sense.
I do actually have one. This was on Overdrive's and this is not related to a different player. Let's just speculate if we think it is. The biggest value coach transfer of all time is
Biggest
supposedly happening
value
over the summer.
coach. Does that mean?
Yeah, the most.
What does that mean? Does that mean value for money? Does that mean the most expensive? Like, what does that mean? It's the problem with second language stuff sometimes. Like, he's not aware of the context of his words, I think, if he phrased it like that.
It means that it's like the biggest money transfer. They're paying for a coach, and it's the biggest money.
Okay.
Like, yeah, that's something Overdrive said is going to happen over the summer.
No mention of a team involved on either side.
Look, it's huge money. You'd think it's Falcons.
If it's Falcons, unless I'm forgetting someone, I can't think of anyone they could be chucking money at other than Blade. So I don't think Ash would. I mean, I guess if it's a coach transfer, there's not exactly been a lot of expensive coach transfers in history. So I guess by default, even signing Ash out of Gamer Legion wouldn't be that fucking crazy. Like,
GL would be really clever if they tacked on such a big buyout to Ash's contract.
But yeah, otherwise it's just Blade, right? Like, who the hell else demands that kind of attention on the coaching front?
Yeah. Also,
Cyclone? Maybe Cyclone. Maybe
begs the
Excess.
question who the other.
Never mind.
Who the other big coach transfers would be?
Yeah, I don't even know.
Like, what's the bar?
Yeah, I don't know what the bar is. I mean, that's the point of this kind of leak, where it's like, this means nothing to me. Like, the biggest value coach transfer. Like, you've not told me who's involved. You've not told me the financial implications. You've not even titillated it, spiced it up, saying beating XYZ. You've just said this. Like, fascinating. This is why I don't follow any of these people. Like, I'll let you lot sort through the chaff. Like, it's not fucking worth my time.
Supposedly it's the most expensive coach transfer in history. And I can't even think of a coach who got bought out.
It's like telling me there's the most expensive goat of all time is about to be sold. Like, I don't know what the fucking last most expensive goat was. This means nothing.
Both Zonic went on a free both times he went to Vitality and Falcons. So it's like, that's not even the bar. Who has bought a coach?
I don't know. That's part of the issue. I do not care.
Yeah, I can't even think of a coach who got bought. Liquid maybe bought Mither? I don't know, but that would have been nothing. No way somebody paid good money for Mither.
I don't know, bro. I do not know.
No, Mither went on a free. Yeah, this is meaningless. Okay. it might be that somebody slipped him a $100 bill, and that's how G2 got their new coach.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
There's a few coaches that could demand a big buyout if Falcons want them. Most of them, I think, not particularly. But also, as we established, it could be literally anyone, given that it's a coach transfer, and those typically aren't a thing we talk about.
Yeah.
So let's get into prospects of the week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's wrap up the show. I'm going to lead off because mine's obvious. Actually, we've talked about both these players during the show, so it's not going to take us very long. I've picked Makazze. 18-year-old prospect, has had a full episode. Absolute unit, absolute beast. What more is there to say about this guy? I've said it all. He's a monster. Someone sign him, unless Na'Vi try to promote him. Someone will take him, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah. Not much to add. He was the best player in the world this week, I think. The last night when I checked. It was the most obvious pick. I was actually going to say, like, berate you for being boring over picking him.
Literally my prospect, though, so I can do what I want.
Yeah, good pick. Yeah, nothing to add. Good player.
Yeah, who have you taken?
Yeah. I've taken Tomajin, who did a repeat of the Shanghai America's RMR to qualify for the major. Last year, they almost made it. They had a bit of a rough draw, Bestia, when they played the Shanghai RMR, because they had to play Complexity, Liquid, and M80. And they still made it quite far, because they beat everybody else they had to play. Nouns and Boss, I think. For an Argentinian team, I thought that was pretty good last year. So Tomashin sort of popped up on a lot of people's radar, because he was, as far as I remember, not despite being knocked out, the best player overall in that qualifier. So who knows? Fast forward to second best, sorry. Yeah. Fast forward to this week, and we've had the NA MRQ. And Bestia have made the major. In, I'd honestly maybe say a rougher bracket, to be honest, because they were worse coming in. They had fewer spots overall. And they had like some pretty tough teams to play. They had they lost to Fluxo, they beat Red Canids, causing the benching of 2 players. And we already talked about this. They beat Sharks, they beat Legacy. Solid run. Top of the scoreboard is actually his teammate, but out of players who qualify for prospects, Tomashin, 121, and in the qualifying game, 130. Top of the team. He is really solid. He's 21 years old,
Big time
and we're
player.
about to see him at a major. Yeah, we're about to see him at a major for the first time, and it's cool because he's been in the back of my mind for like half a year at this point. So it's cool that we got a chance to talk about him, and we're gonna get a chance to see him in the big leagues.
Yeah, little beast, little rocket. I think we had a prospect
beast.
demo for him. Members can go back and dig for that. I can't remember if it's actually a recorded one or it's just one I watched. But yeah, like what he does. Pretty skilled. Let's see what comes of it. Hopefully Bestia can have a good run at the stage 1. Show some stuff. All right, that's the episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining live. If you're watching on recording and you made it this deep, you're my hero. But yeah, remember to like, subscribe, become a member if you want more content and the right to vote, etc. And yeah, we'll see you next week.